Our consensus number 11 prospect on the Sleepers Media big board, Michigan State Spartan, my love, honestly, not to sound too forward. The guy that won me the Big Ten by 3 games last season, took the country by storm, and was one of the better freshmen in the Big Ten, if not the country, underrated, comes in at number 11th on our big board. That is none other than Jase Richardson, the freshman, son of Jase Richardson, obviously Michigan State legend who, was had a very, very good freshman season. Not to put him down in any state or fashion, but did have a little bit of an issue at the combine where he measured a little bit shorter. Maybe the height of him without shoes, because you play basketball without shoes, was a little bit different than anyone would have thought. But you can't argue with the production of Jace Richardson. You can't argue with a lot of the intangibles of Jace Richardson. And that is a player that I and Riley, who are here today, are going to talk about, talking about our Sleepers Media draft superlatives, where we will have, I think we will have 79 other videos of 80 total prospects. So be sure to tap into the channel, watch our Sleepers team, talk about all these NBA prospects. Riley, you had Jace Richardson at number 15 on your big board. So before we get into these categories, talk a little bit about Jace Richardson, the player.
So he is one of my favorite players, excuse me, was one of my favorite players to watch in all of college basketball last year. You know, I hopped on the Go Green, Go White, Spartan Dog, Wolf Wolf bandwagon about in February. I was there. I was there when they were doubting us after the West Coast trip, Cart. I held strong and said this Spartan team is different. So I just have to preface that before any Michigan State fans come after me when I say negative things about Jace, because I'm a little bit scared of his NBA potential just because of the size. And usually when we see these combine measurements where it's like, oh, without shoes, I'm like you, dude. I always make the same comment, like, well, it's a good thing they play in shoes, you know? But being just a touch over 6 foot without shoes as a combo guard and like played more of the two at Michigan State this year. I know he ran the offense in stretches. It scares me a little bit. That's like, how do you scale his role? What progressions can he make as like a true lead guard? Can he develop into that? But when you think about the strengths, they're so enticing. When you look at the footwork, his ability to get his shot from anywhere, good handle, he's twitchy, just like super efficient, really at all three levels on the court. And there's one game in particular, I was going back and rewatching some stuff, prepping for this that stuck out to me. The home game against Wisconsin, I believe he only finished with 11 points. It was one of like his quieter games, but he had this one possession where Jack Janicki was guarding him, and it was like he looked across from him and was like, okay, this is food, and toyed with him, like spun around into like a step back three, hit a contested step back, hit the contested step back three, drew the foul, and like the Brez went wild. It's like that is who Jase Richardson can be. It is the self creation upside there, his ability to get his shot all over the court, and he's just clutch. Like the dude seems like he's a killer mentally. That has me, wanting to buy into him as an NBA prospect.
Yeah, the thing about Jace is even before like the whole measuring at the combine thing, one, everyone brings up the height. He also has a 6'6" wingspan. He had a very good vertical leap, shot at the ball very well as he did in college. And look, I understand, I love Jace, but I feel the same way that you do, Riley. At the same time, he's a 6 foot combo guard who did not really play as much point as you probably would have wanted him to see at the college level because of Michigan State's team situation and their team success.
Mhm.
But at the same time, if I'm betting on a player, I'm not going to make the mistake of doubting Jace Richardson once. I did that before, came back to bite me. Not going to do it again because I believe in the kid, and I do think that he can play point guard and combo guard in the NBA and hold his own, even given, the height and maybe the usage that you don't want to see. But let's talk a little bit more about Jace Richardson outside of the game. We'll talk a little bit more maybe when we get to the comps for him. But what is one word you would use to describe Jace Richardson?
So I put Tango.
Tango. As the dance? Like let's
Yes.
tango?
Yes, because when he gets in an ISO situation, he says is to his defender, "May I have this dance?" Puts them on skates. Again, if I like that is the upside with Jace here. It's that shot creation ability. It's the ability to knock down pull up jumpers. He did it at such a high level last year. I mean, you saw it throughout the Big Ten season. Had some big moments in the tournament as well. Bounced back after that New Mexico win, where I think he was like 3 for 16 or something. Maybe not that bad, and had 20 points the next time out against Ole Miss and was super clutch in that one to get them to the next round. That's Jace Richardson to me.
Yeah, he's so good, even when, like it's everyone's like sit on his left hand, sit on his left hand. They know, and he would get there and he would go right as well, but would come back left. He knows how to get there. He gets to the spots he wants to, and then once he gets there, it's pull-ups, it's floaters, it's get all the way, crafty up and under layups. Like he knows just what to do, just how to use the body control, and he has such good arc on his shot from everywhere. Like the floaters are high up where it's hard to block. Even the three-point shot, it seems like it's never coming down when he shoots it, but it seems like it always goes in. And look, he definitely is one where we gave him the ball at the end of the shot clock as a Michigan State fan and said do him and said let's dance tango. So I love that one. I use underrated for Jace. I just think that there's so many nitpickings at his shortcomings, no pun intended, that they don't realize that this kid was on the floor with some of the best players that are in this draft, and he was the best player on the floor. He was on the floor with Derek Queen and Ace Bailey, and Dylan Harper didn't play that game, and Kasparis Yakashonis, Will Riley even, and he was the best player on the floor. And I think there's something to be said about that. That when he stepped on the floor, now not necessarily matched up with those NBA prospects, but on the same floor as them, you came away being like Jace was the best freshman on the floor. I think there's something to say about that, even though there are some translations that need to go to the NBA.
Mhm.
So one word for him: floor or ceiling.
Floor.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. This would tie into one of his weaknesses, and we hit on it a little bit at the top. Can he be like a full-time lead guard who runs an NBA offense? I thought from a playmaking perspective, you saw these flashes where you could run like a two-man game with him and a capable big, and he's good at that. He's smart when it comes to finding guys who are cutting along the baseline. I think he's a really good playmaker in transition. It seems like he always finds the open man. But I want to see what he can do with more reps, like in the pick and roll, for instance. Because I just again, you had Jeremy Fears, the floor general. You had Trey Holloman, the logo general. I don't know if he had as many opportunities as we would have liked to see what exactly he can do as the number one guy in the backcourt. And I think just some of the question marks there, combined with some of the size limitations, it has me feeling like he might hit his floor, even though I think his floor is relatively high.
Yeah, that's fair to say. I mean, sometimes with this ceiling and floor thing, I feel like people overlook the fact that floors can be very high for players.
Hmm.
So I'm fine with saying that. I did say ceiling just because I think that with the spacing of NBA games and the role he's going to be asked to play, I just believe in him to be a guy that can, be a lead guard and run some point, run some offense, but also do some things for himself. And if put into another role, I think one thing he showed at Michigan State is that you put him in a role he's going to produce. He maybe was not in the role that, NBA teams wanted to see as a point guard, but he thrived in the role that he was in, and I thought that he could have done more if asked to do more. What is the best team fit for Jase Richardson for you?
Best team fit. This one's a little bit of a cheat code with Wembanyama there, but I said the Spurs. To me, it's like when you pair him next to De'Aaron Fox or Stephon Castle, that feels well. I don't know, man. It would seem asinine for the Spurs to pass on Dylan Harper, but let's say they trade out of that pick and they set their sights on Jace with the 14th pick. Like he does seem like a more natural pairing next to either of those two guys, and I think with both of them being bigger point guard types, could cover up some of those like size concerns you might have with Jace.
Yeah, so I actually said the Spurs as well, especially because I think that they will take Harper at two, right? And you have a situation where Jace is like the first bench guard,
Mhm.
and he's running that, and then down the line, maybe the Spurs are like, okay, De'Aaron Fox is getting up there, Jace Richardson is
Mhm.
ready for this, put him to the lineup. You have a young backcourt of Dylan Harper, Jace Richardson. I honestly really love that. I think that could work out well with Stephon Castle in there as well. I just like the versatility, the creation, the difference in body size between those guys. I think it can provide different things. Jace can bring some shooting that maybe Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper don't necessarily bring. I
Mhm.
really like the fit and just like, a little bit of NBA cliche here, like put Jace Richardson into the Spurs system. It works, right? You don't got to worry about guys, measurements or things like that. They find good basketball players and they make it work. And he'll be with Wemby, right? He'll be a good player on that team and be good with that.
Covers up Wimby can cover up any sort of like size concerns. So
Right. Play 4, 5, 11 guys out there. It doesn't matter. You have one down there. You'll be completely fine. In 5 years, he is a starter, a bench player, a sorry, All NBA, All Star, starter, bench player, G League, overseas, or podcaster.
I said he'd be a bench guy. I like the kind of what you were getting at least for the first few years of his career. I think he probably fits best as a team's third guard.
Yeah, I can see it. So I have, I'm going all in my J stock. I think in 5 years he will be a starter in the NBA. I just think he's too good. He'll be too productive. I think he'll bring some defensive versatility as well. He doesn't really get credit for, given, despite maybe some of the lateral quickness things he has very long arms, very quick hands. I think he'll hold up just fine on that end, even though he is 6 foot and a little bit on the lighter side
To
for an
that
NBA
point,
player.
yeah, to that point, Carter, I think it's honestly, he's probably a little understated that he was a starter for a team that was top five nationally in defensive rating. I think it's easy to overlook that or to worry because he is short and light right now. I think he's less than 180 pounds. But yeah, I do like the wingspan as well. And I thought he was a good defender last year. Like, how many times do we see freshmen struggle to pick up defensive concepts under Tom Izzo?
Yeah.
And that did not seem to be the case at all. So, like, as we hash this out, you are talking me. Maybe he will hit that ceiling because I think, yeah, he probably is a better defender than a lot of people realize.
Yeah, a peek behind the curtain to NBA teams who don't follow Michigan State whatsoever, NBA fans that don't follow Michigan State. Tom Izzo would sit Victor Wembanyama if he didn't play defense. Like that guy doesn't let anybody touch the floor who doesn't play defense. So the fact that Jace was a part of that unit, like you said, that was really good. One of the best defensive teams in the country. You can't overlook that. Jase Richardson is most likely to what?
Most likely to be listed at two very different heights at various times in his career. And I have to give credit to Greg for coming up with that one. He wasn't able to do this video, so I stole that and I'm going to play it off like it's mine. Yeah, most likely to, as a rookie, be listed at 6'2", but by the time he's a 10-year vet, he's like, yo, bump me up to 6'5". No one's fact checking this anymore.
Hey, I feel that. You can be good enough to do whatever height you want. I said he was most likely to go on a podcast and say he wanted to come back for year two, and Tom Izzo said no.
That seems like a great shout.
Yeah, it's gonna happen, and I can't wait. And Izzo's gonna bring it up a lot. It's one of the Michigan State funny things for me. Anyone can ask what Jaren Jackson says when asked about that same thing. But let's get to
Cart,
the comps. But
can we get a quick role play of how Draymond teased that up for Jace when on Draymond's podcast?
so, Jace, yeah, we all know how Tom Izzo is. Coach Izzo is one of the greatest. Was there any inkling that you would go back for year two at Michigan State, be a Spartan dog, woof woof?
Dude, that was such a good Draymond impersonation. That's like I think like are you an impersonation guy? And I'm just now finding
Not,
this out.
not whatsoever. You are the impersonation guy of this podcast. I just show up and try to be the best I can. I don't know where that came from. Also, my voice is a little raspy, which I think kind of helped me out here.
That was really good. Like the cadence, the pace, like the whole tone, all of it spot on.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm gonna now bust out Draymond Green impressions at every single turn. Uh, let's get to the comps for Jace. Let's start with the best case scenario for Jace. Who do you have as the best case comp for him?
So I said Jalen Green. I think he's someone when you even watch how they shoot the ball, like it looks very similar. Green was another guy. I think he's only listed at 6'4", but looks bigger when he's on the court. I thought the same with Jace. Like there are times this year, I know I've made a big deal about the height, but like there are times this year where I would have just like without looking, been like, oh yeah, he's probably like 6'4", 6'5". It's kind of the same thing with Jalen Green. And similarly, Green has added a lot of muscle since being in the league. Like he was like rail thin when he first got drafted, and that hasn't plagued him. But I think some of the same like combo guardy creates their own shot, cooks dudes in the mid range, and has some passing chops to pair with it. But still probably a little bit streaky, a little bit volatile. I could see that being the case for Jace as well.
I wonder if it'll be off the court the same for Jace as Jalen Green. But so my best case scenario, I did a little throwback player here. I did Monte Ellis. I did
I
Monte
like
Ellis.
that.
Monte Ellis was like a 6'3". What kind of position was he? Was he really a point guard? But he was kind of a two guard. But he could play point. Like his peak years with those Golden State teams, like Monte Ellis was a 20 a game guy. Also pitched in like 4 or 5 rebounds, 4 or 5 assists. Shot the ball well from the field and from three. I think that Jase Richardson could be in that mold. And I'm talking about peak Monte Ellis. That was a really good player. That was a 24-4 guy who won a lot of basketball games.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
Who would you go for worst case comp?
Worst case, I said Trey Burke. In
That's that's
part,
that's a crazy pull given the scenario.
like I did just want to mess with G a little bit, low key. But as I was thinking about smaller guards who relied a lot on that self creation, who ended up just as like a bench piece for what? How long was Burke in the league for? Like 8 years, 9 years?
And something like that.
But every so often they would tease you with like these flashes of stardom. Like remember when Trey Burke was on the Mavericks and it was like,
Yep.
oh, Trey Burke's figuring it out. Like he's finally gonna stick. He's gonna live up to that pedigree. I could see that like if it doesn't pan out with Jace, it's something similar.
Yeah, I can see that. So because I'm very high on Jason, I think his floor is very good. That I think his worst case comp is actually a pretty good player. I actually went with Nebhard from the Pacers on this one. I just think that he could be a guy that he could run a team, kind of second unit, just maybe play a little bit off the ball. As like Nebhard kind of plays off the ball next to a bigger
Mhm.
guard, point guard, Tyrese Halliburton. Nebhard 6'3". Definitely a bit stronger than Jace, but I do think that Nebhard does a lot of things that the Jace role could be. He knocks down shots. He defends at a very high level. He can do some passing things and he can knock down shots. I just think that if one thing that Jace might lack maybe the passing ability and also maybe a little bit of body size things that Nebhard has, but I think Jace is a far better shooter, far better scorer than Nebhard.
Mhm. Mhm.
But
Can I close this video with a Greg impersonation since you did Draymond?
please do.
What's Nimhard's first name, Cart?
Andrew.
Good job. You got it.
At
Don't tell me you know if Greg was on this. You said Nimhard from the Pacers. I know for a fact if Greg was on here, he'd be quizzing you on the first name to see if
He
you can
he
get
would
the right one.
100% he would 100% do that. Thank you for holding it down. Riley, thank you for getting on this video with me. Shout out to Jase Richardson. Excited to see where he ends up going on draft night. Like I said, we have 79 other of these videos on our channel for all our AD prospects on our big board. Be sure to tap in, tune in, leading up, and get yourself ready for the NBA draft.